faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
Have you ever found yourself in the midst of your Christian home being afraid of something? Whether it be fearful of someone becoming ill, or maybe someone passing away, or maybe just fearful of the situation you're in, perhaps financially. You know, God never desires for His children to be afraid of anything. Now, it is the case that we can be hurt, we can be harmed by physical things, but when it comes to God's intention, His only hope and desire for us is that we be saved in spiritual matters. You know, God, as a matter of fact, tells us in 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7, He says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And when you consider that and you think about that, what God is telling us is this: you ought not be afraid, at least constantly. You ought not be under the pressure and the anxiety of fear all the time. As a matter of fact, the verse reveals unto us very carefully several areas in which God can rescue us, if you will, from that fear. For example, He says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power. Friends, it is God that endues us with power. Without God, we have none of that within ourselves. And when we come to understand that, we come to a better understanding of just what God desires of us. Secondly, He mentions that God not only endues us with power, but He goes on to say not only of power, but of love. Friends, God enriches us with His love. It's God's love upon us that causes Him to even desire to maintain us. It's God's love upon us that even brought down our Savior, Jesus Christ, to die on a cross. And so in light of that happening in history, our future is even set if we're only faithful to Him. And then thirdly, not only does He do those two things, but He goes on to say, but of a sound mind. Friends, it is God that enables us to have a sound mind. You know, the reason sometimes we worry is because really we wander from God. When we worry, it's because we lose sight of who God is. We lose sight of the fact that God has set to sustain us, that God has set to uphold us in every situation. And that's never the way it ought to be. As a matter of fact, the Bible goes on to tell us even later that it's the case that one who is godly, why they themselves should never have to fear. Psalm 27 and verse 1. And when we rely on Him, when we lean on Him, we have nothing to fear in this life. And when we see that the spiritual things in life are most important, more important than any of our emotions, any of our physical well-being, and we lean and rely on God, we will find a place where we can be outside of fear. Friends, this has been your Fortune of Faith. My name is Jim Merle, and I thank you very much.